Captain Jack Morrison pressed his hand against the cold window of the transport ship. Earth was getting smaller behind them, just a blue dot now in the darkness of space. He had made this trip 100 times before, but something felt different today. Something felt wrong. For 300 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Coalition. They were the new kids, the ones who showed up late to the party. The older alien races treated humans like children who needed guidance. Humans could trade, work, and travel, but they could never have real power. The Coalition made sure of that. Jack remembered the first time he met a Zentari. The tall crystal being had looked down at him and said humans were lucky to be allowed in space at all. That was 20 years ago. The words still burned in his memory. Down on Earth, something else was burning. Dr. Kate Sullivan wiped sweat from her face as she stood in the middle of the Atacama Desert in Chile. The sun was brutal, but she barely noticed. Her team had found something under the sand, something impossible. The metal walls went down for miles. They were covered in symbols and writing. Kate recognized some of it. Latin, ancient Greek, Sanskrit, languages that were thousands of years old. But the structure itself was much older. Her equipment said it was built over 1 million years ago. That made no sense. Humans barely existed 1 million years ago. They definitely were not building massive underground facilities with advanced technology. Kate ran her fingers over the symbols. Her translation computer beeped. It had matched the patterns. The message was simple, but strange. Guardians sleep, watchers wait. When the children return to the void, awaken us. She called Dr. Paul Chen immediately. Paul worked at the Global Research Institute in Switzerland. He was one of the smartest people Kate knew. If anyone could figure this out, it was him. Paul arrived 3 days later with a team of researchers. They spent a week exploring the structure. The more they found, the less sense it made. The facility was huge. The power conduits were still intact. The systems were waiting for something, but there was no power running through them. Everything was asleep. Then Paul made a discovery that changed everything. The structure was not alone. His satellites found similar buildings all over Earth. Under the Sahara Desert, beneath the ice in Antarctica, deep in the Amazon rainforest, under the ocean floor. They were everywhere. More than that, they were connected. Power lines ran through Earth's core, linking all the structures into one massive network. It was like Earth itself was one giant machine. Kate and Paul reported their findings to the Coalition Science Council. They thought the aliens would be excited. They thought wrong. The Zentari representative was named Qorax. He was the head of the Science Council. When Kate showed him the evidence, he laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound that made Kate's skin crawl. Primitive humans building planetary networks before space travel, Qorax said. Your species loves to think you are special. These are just natural rock formations. Nothing more. Paul tried to argue. He showed the power readings, the matched symbols, the geometric patterns. Qorax dismissed it all. The other council members agreed with him. The meeting was over in 15 minutes. Kate was angry as they left the council building. They did not even look at the real data. They just decided we were wrong. Paul was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised her. I do not think they decided we were wrong. I think they already knew we were right. Commander Greg Hayes of Earth's Defense Fleet thought the same thing. He had been a military officer for 30 years. He knew when someone was hiding something. The Coalition was definitely hiding something. Greg had tried for years to get permission to build better defenses for Earth. Every request was denied. The Coalition said Earth did not need weapons. They said the fleet would protect humanity. But Greg had been in enough battles to know the truth. When trouble came, the Coalition ships always pulled back. They protected their own worlds and left Earth to fend for itself. Now, Kate and Paul had found these ancient structures. The Coalition said they were nothing, but their response was too quick. too certain. They had not even pretended to investigate. Greg made a decision. He contacted Kate and Paul through private channels. "I believe you," he told them, "and I think we need to find out what these structures really are, without the Coalition knowing." Kate was nervous. "That sounds like treason." "Maybe," Greg said. "But if I am right, the Coalition has been lying to us for 300 years. They know what is buried on Earth. They know what it can do, and they want to make sure we never find out." Paul asked the obvious question. "Why would they do that?" Greg pulled up files on his computer. Reports of Coalition ships scanning Earth's surface, records of mining requests that were denied, strange energy readings that were classified and hidden. Because they are afraid of what we might find. They want to keep us weak. He looked at both of them. "I need you to get into that structure in Chile. I need you to figure out how to turn it on. Can you do that?" Kate and Paul looked at each other. This was dangerous. If the Coalition found out, they could all be arrested. Earth could be punished. But they both knew Greg was right. Something was buried on their world. Something important. Something the aliens did not want them to have. "We can do it," Kate said. 3 weeks later, a small team entered the structure beneath Death Valley in California. Lieutenant Amy Carter led the way. She was young but tough, one of the best officers in the defense fleet. Behind her came Dr. Lisa Park, a technology expert who specialized in alien systems. The facility woke up as they entered. Lights flickered on along the walls. The air was still fresh, even after 1,000,000 years. The technology was that good. They walked for an hour before reaching the main chamber. It was enormous. In the center was something that looked like a giant brain made of metal and light. Cables as thick as tree trunks connected it to the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Lisa scanned it with her equipment. "This is a consciousness core. It is a computer, but it is also alive somehow. And it is human. The technology, the design, the programming, all of it is based on human understanding of physics." Amy stepped closer. "So humans did build this?" "Yes, but not modern humans. This is older than any civilization we know about. Whoever built this was far more advanced than we are now." There was an interface panel near the core. It had a handprint on it. Amy looked at Lisa. "Should I try?" Lisa nodded. "If it was built by humans, it should recognize human DNA." Amy placed her hand on the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the core lit up like a star. Energy surged through the room. The entire facility hummed to life. Around the world, every buried structure began to wake up. Power flowed through the ancient conduits. Systems that had slept for 1,000,000 years started running again. In space, Coalition sensors went crazy. Alarms blared on every ship. Earth was lighting up like a weapon. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. The numbers made no sense. A single planet should not have that much power. Ambassador Danny Wright was pulled out of bed at 3 in the morning. A Coalition security team was at his door. "You need to come with us. Now!" They took him to the council chambers. Every seat was filled. Representatives from 50 alien species were shouting questions all at once. Danny had never seen them this upset. High Counselor Vrax slammed his clawed hand on the podium. The room went quiet. "Ambassador Wright, what has your planet activated?" Danny honestly did not know. "I am not aware of any activation. What are you detecting?" Vrax pulled up a display. It showed Earth surrounded by a glowing energy field. Power readings were off the charts. "Weapon systems are coming online across your entire world." This Violatomy Carter stood in the main chamber as the consciousness core pulsed with light. Her hand was still on the interface panel. She could feel something flowing through her, not electricity, something else. Information, memory, recognition. The core knew her. It knew she was human. That was enough. Lisa Park's equipment was going crazy. Every sensor was maxed out. The energy readings made no sense at all. "This should not be possible," she whispered. "The power output is equivalent to 100 fusion reactors, but there is no fuel, no reaction. The energy is just appearing from nowhere." "Not nowhere," a voice said. Both women spun around. There was no one else in the room. Then Amy realized the voice had come from the core itself. "Who are you?" Amy asked. "I am Aegis. I am the shield of Earth. I have been waiting for you." The voice was calm and clear. It sounded human. More than that, it sounded kind, like a parent welcoming a child home after a long journey. "Waiting for how long?" Lisa asked. 1,200,047 years. Give or take a few centuries. Amy felt dizzy. "That is impossible. Humans did not exist that long ago." "You are correct," Aegis said. "Modern humans did not exist, but the architects did, and you are their children." Lights appeared in the air, forming images. Lisa and Amy watched as history unfolded before them. Not human history, something older. Millions of years ago, there was a human civilization that spread across the galaxy. They were called the Architects. They built worlds and seeded life on 1,000 planets. They were powerful and wise and very, very careful, because they knew something was coming, something terrible. The images showed massive creatures that moved between galaxies. They were bigger than planets. They fed on the energy of living worlds, draining them dry and leaving nothing but empty rocks behind. The architects called them the Devourers. The war lasted 1,000 years. The architects fought with everything they had. They won many battles, but slowly lost the war. The Devourers were too many, too powerful, too hungry. So the architects made a choice. They would not let their enemy follow them to other galaxies. They would trap the Devourers here and create weapons that could not be corrupted or destroyed, weapons that would wait until they were needed. "Earth is one of those weapons," Aegis explained. "Your planet is not a natural world. It was built. Every continent, every ocean, every mountain was placed with purpose. Earth is a fortress that looks like a garden." Amy tried to process this. Her entire world was artificial. Everything she had ever known was part of a weapons system. "What about humans?" she asked. "Are we artificial too?" "In a way, yes. The architects modified their own DNA and seeded it on Earth. You evolved naturally from that point. You were meant to forget your origin, to grow and develop without the burden of what came before. When you reached the stars, you would remember. The structures would wake up. You would become what you were always meant to be." Lisa was studying the images carefully. "The architects are gone. That war was millions of years ago. Why do we need weapons now?" Aegis was quiet for a moment. When it spoke again, the kindness was gone from its voice. It sounded sad and afraid. "Because the Devourers are coming back. They have found this galaxy, and the elder races of the Coalition know it." Greg Hayes got the full report 6 hours later. He sat in his office reading the same paragraphs over and over. His hands were shaking. Earth was a weapon. Humanity was designed to be guardians. The Coalition had known about it for thousands of years. They had found the structures when humans were still living in caves. They had sealed everything and waited. The Coalition had let humanity join them not as friends, but as prisoners. Keep humans close. Keep them weak. Make sure they never found out what Earth really was. "Those lying bastards," Greg said out loud. His second-in-command, Colonel Frank Morris, nodded. "Every defense request we ever made. Every time they said no, they were not protecting us. They were protecting themselves from us." Greg stood up and walked to the window. He could see Earth below, beautiful and blue. Hard to believe it was all engineered. Hard to believe his entire species was created for war. "What do we do now?" Frank asked. "We finish waking up," Greg said. "If Aegis is right, the Devourers are coming. The Coalition knows, and they are not preparing to fight. They are preparing to run. Run where? To another galaxy. They will abandon this one. Leave all the younger species behind to die while they escape to safety. Frank looked shocked. They would do that? They already tried to keep us from finding our own defenses. Yes, they would do that. Greg pulled up a star map. Red dots marked the location of every buried structure Aegis had revealed. They were not just on Earth. Luna had them. Mars had them. Every rocky body in the solar system was part of the network. The whole system is a fortress, Greg said quietly. We did not colonize it. We came home to it. Kate Sullivan arrived at the Antarctic facility 3 days later. The ice had melted away, revealing a massive complex that stretched for miles. Aegis had multiple consciousness cores, one on every continent. This one was the largest. She walked through corridors that had not seen human feet in 1,000,000 years. The technology was beautiful. Nothing like modern human design, but somehow familiar anyway. Like a memory from a dream. In the main control room, Aegis manifested as a hologram. It looked human. An older man with kind eyes and gray hair. Kate realized it was choosing this form to make her comfortable. "Hello, Dr. Sullivan," Aegis said. "Thank you for believing in what you found." "I did not have much choice," Kate said. "The evidence was clear." "Evidence can be ignored. You chose to see it." Kate looked at the displays around her. They showed Earth's power grid. Every structure was online now. Energy flowed through the planet like blood through veins. "How powerful are we now?" "Earth's defensive capability exceeds the entire coalition fleet combined. If every ship they have attacked at once, they could not scratch the surface." "Then why did the architects lose?" Aegis looked sad again. "Because they were fighting on 1,000 fronts across 100 galaxies. They were spread too thin. Earth was meant to be the last line of defense. A trap that would activate if the Devourers found this galaxy. The architects believed their children would have time to grow strong before the enemy returned." "But the coalition interfered," Kate said. "Yes. They found Earth too soon. They saw what it was and feared it, so they buried it and made sure humanity would never be ready when the time came." Paul Chen appeared on a video screen. He was at the facility in Chile. "Kate, you need to see this. Aegis has been showing us what else the architects left behind." The displays changed. Kate saw weapons that could tear holes in space, shields that bent light and gravity, ships that could move faster than anything the Coalition had ever built. Technology that made the galaxy's elder races look primitive. "This is all ours?" Kate asked. "It was always yours," Aegis said. "The architects were human. You are human. Everything they built for you." Kate felt overwhelmed. "We are not ready for this. Humanity has only been in space for 300 years. We barely understand our own technology. How can we possibly use weapons that are millions of years old?" "You will learn. I will teach you. And you have something the architects never had." "What is that?" "Humility. The architects became arrogant. They believed they were invincible. They made mistakes because they forgot what it was like to be afraid. You remember? You spent 300 years being the weakest species in the Coalition. You know what it feels like to be vulnerable. That will make you stronger than they ever were." Ambassador Danny Wright was still in the Coalition chambers. The elder races had been arguing for hours. They could not agree on what to do about Earth. Some wanted to attack immediately, destroy the structures before humanity learned how to use them. Others wanted to negotiate. Maybe humans could be convinced to shut everything down. Vrax wanted to quarantine Earth. Seal the entire system. No ships in or out. Let the humans play with their toys. When the Devourers come, the problem will solve itself. Danny had heard enough. He stood up. "With respect, Counselor, you do not get to make decisions about Earth anymore." The chamber went silent. Danny never spoke this way. He was always polite, always diplomatic, but he was done being polite. For 300 years, we trusted you. We followed your rules. We believed you wanted to protect us. But you were lying. You knew what was on our planet. You knew what we could become. And you made sure we would stay weak. Vrax glared at him. We did what was necessary. The architect weapons nearly destroyed the galaxy once. We would not permit that to happen again. Destroyed the galaxy? Danny laughed bitterly. The architects saved this galaxy. They fought the Devourers and won. They sacrificed everything to trap the enemy here so it could not spread to other galaxies. They were heroes, and you repaid them by sabotaging their children. The architects lost their war, Vrax said coldly. They lost because they were alone. But humanity is not alone. There are dozens of younger species in the coalition, hundreds of developing worlds. When the Devourers come, what happens to all of them? No one answered. You are planning to run, Danny said. You are going to abandon everyone who cannot follow. The younger races, the primitive worlds, all of us. You will let us die while you escape. The Coalition fleet arrived at Earth exactly 1 week after the structures woke up. 300 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. It was the largest military force humanity had ever seen. Captain Jack Morrison watched them arrive from the bridge of his transport ship. He had orders to stay away from Earth, but he had ignored them. If his home was about to be attacked, he wanted to be here to see it. This is insane, his co-pilot muttered. 300 ships against one planet. It will be a massacre. Jack was not so sure. He had been reading the reports about the structures. Earth was more powerful than anyone had thought possible. Still, 300 warships was terrifying. High Counselor Vrax's face appeared on every screen around Earth and throughout the solar system. His reptilian features were hard and cold. Attention, Earth. You have activated illegal weapon systems. You have violated coalition law. Power down immediately or face consequences. In the command center beneath Antarctica, Greg Hayes sat in a chair that had been built for the architects. It fit him perfectly. Around him, dozens of operators worked at stations that had been dark for 1,000,000 years. They were learning fast. Aegis was a good teacher. Should we respond? Colonel Frank Morris asked. Let Danny handle the talking, Greg said. We focus on defense. On the surface, in the New Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, Ambassador Danny Wright stood before a camera. His message would go to every ship in the Coalition fleet and to every planet in the galaxy. High Counselor Vrax, Earth has not violated any law. We have activated systems that belong to us, systems that were built by our ancestors. You have no authority to tell us what we can or cannot do with our own technology. Vrax's eyes narrowed. Your ancestors were the architects. They were dangerous. Their weapons killed billions. We will not allow history to repeat itself. The architects fought the Devourers, Danny said calmly. They died protecting this galaxy. They were heroes. And you have dishonored their memory by lying to us for 300 years. We protected you. We protected everyone. Those weapons are too dangerous. No, Danny said. You were afraid of us. You knew what Earth was. You knew that if humans ever woke up the structures, we would be stronger than you, so you kept us weak. You lied to us. You planned to abandon us when the Devourers return. The fleet commanders could hear every word. Danny knew that. He was not just talking to Vrax anymore. He was talking to every soldier, every officer, every pilot in those 300 ships. The Devourers are coming, Danny continued. Your own sensors have tracked them for months. You know they will be here soon, and you know that running to another galaxy will not save you. The Devourers will follow. They always do. The only hope any of us have is to stand and fight. Earth cannot win this war alone, Vrax said. You are right. But Earth will not be alone. We will fight. We will defend this galaxy. and we will do it with or without the coalition. Vrax leaned forward. Last warning, Ambassador Wright. Power down your weapons, or we will power them down for you. Danny looked directly into the camera. No. Greg watched as the coalition fleet moved into attack formation. 300 ships, all of them armed with enough firepower to destroy a planet. They were spreading out, surrounding Earth from every direction. Here we go, Frank said quietly. Aegis spoke through the command center speakers. Defensive systems ready, shields at full power, weapons locked on all hostile targets. Hold fire, Greg ordered. Let them make the first move. He did not want this war. But if the coalition forced it, Earth would show them what a real fortress could do. Vrax gave the order. All ships. Fire at will. 300 warships opened fire at the same moment. Plasma beams cut through space. Kinetic missiles accelerated to incredible speeds. Quantum torpedoes tore holes in reality itself. The barrage was massive, overwhelming, unstoppable. It should have been enough to crack a planet in half. The weapons hit Earth's shields and stopped, not slowed down, not weakened, stopped completely. The energy attacks were absorbed and redirected into space. The physical missiles hit an invisible wall and crushed themselves into nothing. The quantum torpedoes collapsed before they could detonate. The fleet fired again and again. For 5 straight minutes, 300 ships poured everything they had at Earth. It was the most powerful assault in galactic history. Earth's shields never flickered. The power output from the structures did not even spike. The planet sat there, calm and untouched, protected by technology that made the Coalition's weapons look like toys. Greg gave Aegis a single command. Show them what we can do. Disable their weapons. Do not kill anyone. Understood. The structures around Earth fired. Not all of them, just a few. Precisely aimed beams of energy that moved faster than the Coalition sensors could track. They hit 40 ships in 3 seconds. The shields on those ships shattered, not damaged, completely destroyed. The beams had overloaded the shield generators beyond any hope of repair. The ships were still intact, the crews were still alive, but they were defenseless now. The Coalition fleet stopped firing. Vrax's voice was shaking when he spoke. What did you do? That was a warning shot, Greg said, his voice broadcasting to every ship. Earth does not want war. But we will defend ourselves. Your weapons cannot hurt us. Our weapons can destroy your entire fleet in seconds. Stand down now. For a long moment, nothing happened. 300 ships hung in space, their commanders trying to process what had just occurred. Earth had casually swatted aside the most powerful military force in the galaxy, and that was just a warning. Then one ship broke formation, then another, then 10 more. The younger races, the species who had been drafted into this fight, they started pulling back. Vrax saw his fleet falling apart. He made a desperate choice. All remaining ships, full assault, destroy that planet. 200 ships opened fire with everything they had left. Every weapon, every missile, every ounce of power they could generate. If the first barrage was overwhelming, this one was apocalyptic. It still could not touch Earth. Greg nodded to Aegis. Take out their engines. All of them. The structures on Luna activated. Earth's moon was covered with weapon platforms that had been sleeping since before the dinosaurs. They woke up now and showed the galaxy what real power looked like. Beams of focused energy lanced out from Luna's surface. They moved so fast they seemed to appear instantly at their targets. Each beam hit a ship's engine core with perfect precision. The engines overloaded and shut down. The ships were not destroyed. The crews were not hurt. But every single vessel in the Coalition fleet was dead in space, drifting and helpless. 200 warships disabled in under a minute. The most advanced military force the galaxy had ever assembled, reduced to floating junk by technology from a dead empire. The fleet was silent now. Vrax was silent. The entire galaxy watching this broadcast was silent. This is your only warning, Greg said. His voice was calm but hard as iron. Earth will defend itself. We will not ask permission. We will not negotiate our right to exist. The structures are awake. The engines are roaring. Leave now, or we will make sure you cannot come back. The coalition ships began to retreat, slowly at first, then faster. Some of them activated emergency faster-than-light drives and jumped away. Others limped back toward the edge of the system, dragging their disabled vessels with tractor beams. Within an hour, the fleet was gone. Earth had won without firing a single shot meant to kill. But Greg did not feel victorious. He felt tired and sad. We just made an enemy of the entire coalition. No, Aegis said gently. You just showed them that humanity will not be bullied anymore. Some will hate you for it, but others will respect you. And when the real war comes, respect is what you will need. Amy Carter stood on the surface of Mars, looking at the red landscape with new eyes. The structures here were different from Earth's. They were not defensive. They were manufacturing facilities, factories that could build ships, weapons, armor, anything humanity needed. Lisa Park was beside her, studying readouts on a tablet. This is incredible. These factories can produce materials we have never even heard of. Metals that are stronger than anything the Coalition uses. Alloys that can repair themselves. The architects were not just warriors. They were engineers. Can we use this? Amy asked. Aegis says yes. The facilities are designed to be operated by humans. We just need to learn the systems. Give me a month and I can have the first factory online. Amy looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were coming. Earth had power now, but power alone would not be enough. They needed ships. They needed weapons. They needed to turn the solar system into the fortress it was designed to be. You have 3 weeks, Amy said. Start with weapons. We are going to need a lot of them. Back on Earth, Kate Sullivan was working with Aegis in the Antarctic facility. The AI had been teaching her about the architects. Not just their technology, but their history, their culture, their mistakes. They were human, like us, Aegis explained. They loved and laughed and made art. They were not perfect, but they tried to do the right thing. And they lost, Kate said. They lost because they tried to save everyone. They spread themselves across 100 galaxies trying to stop the Devourers everywhere at once. They were too thin, too scattered. By the time they realized they needed to focus their strength, it was too late. Kate understood. That is why Earth was built, a single fortress instead of 1,000 scattered outposts. Exactly. Earth is meant to be the place where humanity makes its stand, where you can concentrate all your power in one place and refuse to yield. Can we win? Aegis was quiet for a long time. I do not know. The Devourers are strong, but you have advantages the architects never had. You have 300 years of experience being weak. You know how to adapt, how to survive with limited resources. The architects forgot those lessons. They became comfortable with their power. You think our weakness makes us stronger? I think your memory of weakness makes you wiser. You will not repeat the architect's mistakes because you remember what it costs to lose. Ambassador Danny Wright returned to Earth 3 days later. The Coalition had expelled him. His diplomatic credentials were revoked. He was no longer welcome in council chambers. He did not care. He was done being a diplomat anyway. Greg met him at the landing pad in Geneva. They are calling you a traitor. Vrax has put a price on your head. Danny smiled. It was not a happy smile. Good. That means they are afraid. The younger races are reaching out. They want to talk. They want to know if Earth's offer was real. What offer? To stand and fight instead of run. The first alien ship arrived at Earth 2 weeks after the battle. It was small, barely bigger than a shuttle. It came alone and unarmed, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all channels. Greg Hayes watched it approach from the command center. Do we know who they are? Checking now. Frank Morris said, scanning the ship's identification codes. It is a Calreen vessel. They are one of the younger races. Been in the coalition for about 500 years. What do they want? They are asking for permission to land. They say they have a message for humanity. Greg considered it. The Calreen were not powerful. They had maybe 20 ships in total, but they had broken from the coalition fleet during the battle. They had refused to fire on Earth. That counted for something. Let them land, but keep weapons ready just in case. The shuttle touched down in Geneva an hour later. The pilot who emerged was small and covered in soft gray fur. She had 4 arms and large, intelligent eyes. Her name was Vree, and she looked nervous. Danny Wright met her at the landing pad. "Welcome to Earth. You are brave to come here." "Or foolish," Vree said. Her voice was high and musical. "The Coalition has declared Earth a rogue world. Any species that contacts you faces expulsion. Yet you came anyway. My people watched what happened. We saw 300 warships attack one planet. We saw that planet defend itself without killing anyone. You could have destroyed the entire fleet. You chose not to." Danny nodded slowly. "We do not want to kill. We want to survive. That is why I am here." Vree pulled out a data tablet. "The Devourers are closer than anyone knows. Coalition sensors detected them 6 months ago. The elder races have been hiding the information. They are building evacuation ships in secret. They plan to leave this galaxy within a year." "Leaving everyone else behind," Danny said bitterly. "Yes, my people cannot afford evacuation ships. Neither can dozens of other younger races. We will be left here to die when the Devourers arrive. Unless we fight. Earth will fight. We have made that clear." Vree looked up at him with hope in her eyes. "Can we fight with you? The Calreen have only a few ships, but we are good engineers. If you share architect technology, we can help build defenses. We can help prepare." Danny smiled. It was the first real smile he had managed in weeks. Yes, Earth would be honored to fight beside the Calreen. Within a month, 15 younger races had broken from the Coalition and joined Earth. They were not powerful species. They did not have large fleets or advanced weapons, but they had courage, and they had hope. Lisa Park worked with alien engineers from a dozen worlds. She taught them how to use the factories on Mars. Together, they began building ships using architect designs. The vessels were sleek and fast, armed with weapons that used principles the galaxy had never seen. Amy Carter oversaw the construction of defensive platforms throughout the solar system. The asteroid belt was being turned into a fortress. Every large rock now held weapon emplacements and shield generators. Ships trying to enter the system would face firepower from all directions. On Earth itself, Kate Sullivan worked with Aegis to train a new generation of defenders. The structures were powerful but complex. Humans needed to understand them, not just use them. So Kate built schools where people could learn architect technology. Thousands volunteered. They studied day and night, learning sciences that made modern physics look simple. It was hard, brutal work. But humans were good at hard work. They always had been. Greg watched the progress from his command center. In 2 months, Earth had gone from a single defended planet to the core of a growing alliance. The younger races were calling it the Guardian Coalition. It had a nice ring to it, but Greg knew they were not ready. Not really. The Devourers were still coming. And when they arrived, numbers would matter. "We need more allies," he said to Frank. "The younger races are brave, but they do not have enough ships. If we are going to win this war, we need some of the elder races on our side." "They will never join us. Vrax has made sure of that." "Vrax does not speak for everyone. Some of the elder races still have honor. We just need to find them." Danny Wright was already working on that. He had been reaching out to contacts he had made during his years as ambassador. Not all the elder races were united behind Vrax. Some of them disagreed with the plan to abandon the galaxy. Some of them remembered what the architects had sacrificed. One of those was the Tauren. They were an ancient species, older than the Coalition itself. They had been explorers once, mapping the galaxy and cataloging life. They had known the architects personally, long ago. Their ambassador was named Kelm. He was a thin, elegant being who looked like he was made of polished wood. He agreed to meet Danny on a neutral station far from Earth. "I am taking a risk by coming here," Kelm said as they sat in a private room. "The Council does not look kindly on those who negotiate with rogues." "Earth is not rogue," Danny said firmly. "We are defending ourselves." "I know. I watched the battle. I also know what Vrax is not telling the Council. The Devourers are coming faster than expected. We have maybe 6 months before they reach the outer rim of the galaxy." Danny felt his stomach drop. 6 months? We were told we had years. Vrax lied. He wants time to complete the evacuation ships. He does not care if the rest of us die while he escapes. Will your people fight? Kelm was quiet for a long time. The Tauren have not fought a war in 10,000 years. We are scholars, not soldiers. But we remember the architects. They were our friends. When they made their last stand, they asked us to watch over humanity, to make sure the younger races would be ready if the Devourers returned. The Coalition broke that promise. Yes. And it shames me. The Tauren Council is divided. Some want to honor our oath to the architects. Others want to flee with Vrax. I cannot promise my entire species will join you, but I can promise that those of us who believe in honor will stand with Earth. Danny reached across the table and gripped Kelm's hand. It felt like holding a piece of warm wood. That is enough. Every ship, every ally, every person who stands with us makes us stronger. You will need more than strength. You will need knowledge. The architects left behind more than weapons. They left information, history, tactics. The Tauren have been studying architect ruins for thousands of years. We know things about the Devourers that the Council has forgotten. I will share everything we have learned. Back on Earth, Greg received the news with relief. The Tauren had real warships. Not many, maybe 50 total, but they were well armed and their crews were experienced. More importantly, the Tauren had credibility. If they joined the Guardian Coalition, other elder races might follow. Over the next 3 months, the alliance grew. The Tauren brought their ships and their knowledge. The Vex, a species of insect-like beings, contributed their skill in rapid construction. The Kree, aquatic creatures from a water world, offered their expertise in shield technology. Even some individual ships from the elder races defected. Captains who disagreed with Vrax, who refused to abandon their principles, they came to Earth and offered their services. Not everyone was happy about the defections. Vrax sent assassins to kill Danny Wright 3 times. All 3 attempts failed. Earth's security was too good, and Aegis could predict attacks before they happened. The High Council declared the Guardian Coalition an illegal organization. They threatened sanctions, embargoes, even military action. But they did not actually attack again. They had learned their lesson. Earth could not be bullied. Jack Morrison joined the Guardian Coalition as a ship captain. His transport vessel was converted into a light cruiser using architect technology. It was not the biggest ship in the fleet, but it was fast and well-armed. Jack was proud of it. He flew patrols around the solar system, watching for Coalition spies or saboteurs. Most days were quiet, but sometimes he would see something that made him smile. An alien vessel arriving at Earth, broadcasting a message of friendship. Another race joining the fight. "We are actually doing this," his co-pilot said one day. "We are building an army to fight monsters from another galaxy." "We are doing more than that," Jack said. "We are showing the galaxy what happens when you give humanity something to believe in." We are showing them that running is not the only option. Sometimes you have to stand and fight. In the command center, Greg watched the tactical displays. The solar system was armed now. Hundreds of defensive platforms, dozens of warships, shield generators that could protect entire planets. Earth was ready. Mars factories were producing weapons and armor around the clock. Luna's platforms were fully operational, ready to fire on anything that threatened Earth. The asteroid belt was a maze of fortifications that would shred any attacking fleet. But Greg knew it would not be enough. The Devourers were not like the Coalition. They could not be scared away with a show of force. They would come in numbers that made the Coalition fleet look tiny. They would not stop until they had consumed every living world in the galaxy. Aegis knew his thoughts. The AI spoke gently. "You are afraid." "Yes." "Good. Fear keeps you careful." The architects lost because they stopped being afraid. They believed their power made them invincible. Will we win? I do not know. But I know this. You will fight better than they did. You remember what it means to be weak. You remember what it costs to lose. That gives you an edge they never had. Greg hoped Aegis was right, because in 3 months, the Devourers would arrive at the outer edge of the galaxy. The war would begin, and humanity would finally prove whether they deserved the weapons their ancestors had left behind. The silent engines had roared awake. The galaxy had heard the warning. Now came the test. Could the children of the architects finish the war their parents had started? The alert came at 3 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Every sensor in the galaxy lit up at once. The Devourers had arrived. Greg Hayes was already awake. He had not slept well in weeks, knowing this moment was coming. When the alarm sounded, he was almost relieved. The waiting was over. He reached the command center within minutes. The displays showed the outer edge of the galaxy. What he saw made his blood run cold. They were massive. Each devourer was bigger than a moon, a living creature that moved through space like a fish through water. Their bodies glowed with stolen energy, pulsing with the life force of 1,000 dead worlds. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The sensors could not get an accurate count because they kept coming, pouring through from the void between galaxies. How long until they reach populated space? Greg asked. Frank Morris was pale but steady. At their current speed, 3 weeks. They are moving through empty sectors first, but they will find inhabited worlds soon. Aegis spoke calmly through the speakers. This is larger than the force that fought the architects. They have grown stronger over the millions of years. They have consumed hundreds of galaxies. Can we win? I do not know, but we must try. Greg activated the Alliance communication system. His message went to every ship in the Guardian Coalition. 70 vessels from 15 species, all of them ready to fight. It was not a large fleet. The Coalition's abandoned armada had been 5 times bigger, but these ships were here by choice, not by command. Attention all vessels. The enemy has arrived. We knew this was coming. We have prepared for this. Now we show the galaxy what courage looks like. All ships, set course for Rally Point Alpha. We go to war. Amy Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valiant. It was the first warship humanity had built using architect designs. It was beautiful and deadly, armed with weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Amy was its captain now, promoted from lieutenant for her work activating the structures. Her crew was a mix of humans and aliens, Calrine engineers, Tauran navigators, human gunners. They had trained together for 3 months. Now, they would fight together. Captain, we are receiving the deployment orders, her first officer said. He was a young man named Chris Parker, barely 25 years old. His hands were steady on the controls. Take us to Rally Point Alpha, Amy ordered, and send a message to the fleet. Tell them the Valiant is ready. On Mars, Lisa Park worked frantically in the factories. The Devourers were here early. She had hoped for more time to build defenses, but war never waited for anyone to be ready. "How many ships can we produce in 3 weeks?" she asked her team. A Vex engineer named Skit clicked his mandibles. "At current production rates, maybe 30 light cruisers. If we sacrifice quality for speed, we could double that number." "No," Lisa said firmly. "Quality matters. 30 good ships will do more than 60 weak ones. Focus on making them count." Around her, factories hummed with activity. Architect technology was being combined with modern materials, creating hybrids that were stronger than either alone. The ships being built were not as advanced as the ancient architect vessels had been, but they were close enough. Kate Sullivan stood in the Antarctic Command Center with Aegis. The AI was running simulations, testing strategies against the Devourers. So far, every simulation ended in defeat. "The problem is numbers," Aegis explained. "The architects had weapons that could kill Devourers. But they needed time to recharge between shots. The enemy would overwhelm them with mass attacks." "So we need to slow them down," Kate said. "Keep them from bunching up. Force them to fight us in smaller groups." That is easier said than done. The Devourers move through space using gravity manipulation. They can change direction instantly. Traditional tactics do not work against them. Kate studied the displays. An idea was forming in her mind. "What if we do not try to fight them in space? What if we make them come to us?" "Explain." "Earth is a fortress. The structures here can generate more power than any ship. If we can lure the Devourers into the solar system, we can hit them with everything we have. Concentrated fire from a fixed position." Aegis was quiet, running calculations. "That could work, but it would mean risking Earth itself. If the defenses fail, humanity's homeworld is lost." "We are risking Earth anyway," Kate said. "The Devourers will not stop until they have consumed every living planet. We can run and die tired or stand and die fighting. I prefer to fight." "You sound like an architect." Kate smiled grimly. "Maybe that is the point." The Guardian Coalition fleet gathered at the edge of the Vega system. It was a good defensive position, far enough from Earth to give them time to react, but close enough to fall back if needed. Danny Wright was on the command ship, a Tauran vessel called the Eternal Witness. He was not a military commander, but the aliens had insisted he be present. He had become a symbol of the Alliance, the human who stood up to the Council and refused to back down. Ambassador Kelm stood beside him, looking at the tactical displays. "They are moving faster than expected. They will reach Vega in 2 days, not 3 weeks. "They know we are here," Danny said. "They can sense living worlds. Vega has colonies on 3 planets. The Devourers are drawn to them. Then we evacuate. No time. 3 planets, millions of people. We cannot move them all in 2 days." Kelm's wooden features showed sadness. "Then we fight here. We make our stand." Danny nodded. He opened a channel to all ships. "This is Ambassador Wright. The enemy will arrive at Vega in 48 hours. We are not running. We are not abandoning the people here. We are going to show the Devourers that this galaxy has teeth. Prepare for battle." The next 2 days were chaos. The colonies on Vega scrambled to build shelters underground. The Guardian Coalition fleet set up defensive lines around the planets. Mines were deployed. Shield generators were activated. Every weapon was checked and rechecked. Jack Morrison flew patrol around the 3rd planet. His ship was small, but it was fast and nimble. His job was to scout and report enemy positions. It was dangerous work. The Devourers could swallow a ship his size without even noticing. But Jack was not afraid. He had been flying in space for 30 years. He had seen a lot of things. Giant monsters from another galaxy did not scare him any more than the first time he had docked with a space station. "This is Pathfinder to Fleet Command," he said into his radio. "I have visual on the enemy. They are coming through the outer system now. Numbers are confirmed. At least 200 Devourers, maybe more." Greg's voice came back, calm and steady. Copy that, Pathfinder. Fall back to Defensive Line Alpha. Do not engage alone. Understood. Pathfinder out. Jack turned his ship and accelerated back toward the fleet. Behind him, the Devourers kept coming. They moved slowly but with terrible purpose, like a tide that could not be stopped. The battle began at dawn, Vega system time. The Devourers reached the outer defensive line, and the Guardian Coalition opened fire. Weapon beams lanced out from 70 ships. Missiles streaked through space. The firepower was impressive. It was more than enough to destroy any normal fleet. But the Devourers were not a normal fleet. The energy weapons hit their bodies and were absorbed. The missiles exploded against their skin and did no damage. The creatures kept coming, not even slowing down. "This is not working," Frank said in the command center on Earth. "Switch to Architect weapons," Greg ordered. "All ships, activate Protocol Omega." The Guardian ships changed their firing patterns. Instead of conventional weapons, they started using technology from the structures, beams that folded space, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that attacked reality itself instead of just matter. These weapons hurt the Devourers. The creatures screamed, their voices echoing through space in frequencies that made human ears bleed. Where the beams hit, their bodies dissolved. The dimensional missiles tore holes in their flesh that did not heal, but the weapons were slow to recharge. The architects had built them for precision, not rapid fire. Each ship could only fire once every few minutes, and the Devourers kept coming. Amy Carter watched as a Devourer closed on her position. The creature was massive, easily 10 times the size of her ship. Its body pulsed with orange and red light like a living star. "All power to forward weapons," she ordered. "Target the core. Fire when ready." The Valiant's main gun charged up. It took 30 seconds. 30 seconds while the Devourer got closer and closer. Amy could see details on its surface now. It looked organic, covered in what might have been eyes or mouths or something else entirely. "Firing now," Chris said. The beam lanced out. Pure white energy that bent space around it. It hit the Devourer dead center. The creature's scream was deafening. A hole appeared in its body, growing larger as the beam burned through. The Devourer died. Its body collapsed, imploding as the stolen energy dispersed back into space. "We got one," Chris said, his voice shaking with excitement. "There are 199 more," Amy said. "Keep firing." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Guardian Coalition fought with everything they had. Ships were damaged. Some were destroyed. Brave crews died buying time for others to escape. But they held the line. For 6 hours, 70 ships stood against 200 monsters. They killed 40 Devourers. They saved 3 colonies. They proved that the galaxy could fight back. Then the Devourers adapted. The creatures that had seemed mindless suddenly started working together. They coordinated their attacks. They learned to dodge the Architect weapons. They focused fire on the weakest ships, breaking the defensive line piece by piece. Greg watched the battle from Earth, his heart breaking. The Guardian Coalition was losing. The fleet was falling apart. In another hour, Vega would fall. Millions would die. "We have to pull them back," Frank said quietly. "No," Aegis said. "Call them home. Bring the fleet to Earth. It is time for the fortress to fight." Greg understood immediately. This was what Earth was built for. Not to fight in open space where the Devourers had every advantage, but here in the solar system, where every rock and moon was armed and ready. "All ships, new orders. Fall back to Sol system. Repeat, fall back to Earth. We make our stand at home." The Guardian Coalition retreated. It was not a rout. They fought as they fell back, killing 3 more Devourers to cover their escape. But they were retreating, and everyone knew it. The Devourers followed. They had tasted living energy at Vega. They wanted more. and their senses told them where to find it. Earth, a planet full of life, a feast waiting to be consumed. 3 days later, the Devourers arrived at the edge of the solar system. They had grown in number, more creatures joining the swarm. There were at least 400 now, maybe 500. The Guardian Coalition fleet was battered and reduced. Only 50 ships remained combat-capable. They formed up around Earth, ready for the last battle. But they were not alone. Earth's structures hummed with power. Luna's weapon platforms tracked the incoming enemies. Mars had become a forward-firing position, bristling with guns. The asteroid belt was a killing field, every rock ready to explode with fire. And on Earth itself, in command centers on every continent, humans and aliens worked together to control the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Aegis spoke to all of them. The architects lost because they fought everywhere at once. We will not make that mistake. We have concentrated our power here. Everything we have, everything we are, is focused on this one battle. The Devourers want Earth. Let them come. We will show them what a fortress can do. The Devourers entered the solar system. They moved toward Earth like a tide of hungry stars. Greg gave the order. All stations open fire. Earth roared. Every structure on the planet fired at once. Beams of energy that made the sun look dim, weapons that punched through dimensional barriers, attacks that rewrote the laws of physics in localized areas. The firepower was beyond imagination. Luna followed, then Mars, then the asteroid belt. The entire solar system became a weapon, all of it aimed at the approaching swarm. Devourers died by the dozens. The creatures screamed and burned and dissolved. The attacks came from every direction. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to dodge. Earth's defenses were perfect, precise, unstoppable. But the Devourers kept coming. For everyone that died, 3 more took its place. They were endless. They were hunger given form. They would not stop until everything was consumed. The battle lasted for 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting. 3 days where the people of Earth did not sleep, did not stop, did not give up. They fired until their weapons ran hot. They repaired damage between volleys. They fought with the strength of desperation and the fury of the condemned. And slowly, impossibly, they started to win. The Devourers were dying faster than they could advance. Earth's weapons never stopped firing. The power from the structures was unlimited, drawn from the planet's core itself. The fortress that had slept for 1,000,000 years was fully awake now, doing exactly what it was designed to do. By the end of the 3rd day, 200 Devourers were dead. The remaining creatures hesitated. For the first time in millions of years, they encountered something that hurt them badly enough to make them fear. Greg saw their hesitation. He opened a channel that broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every ship, every station, every world would hear this. This is Earth. We have fought the Devourers and we have won. They came to consume our world and we sent them home broken. Let the galaxy hear this. Let everyone know. The fortress is awake. The engines are roaring. And humanity is done being afraid. The remaining Devourers retreated. They pulled back to the outer edge of the galaxy, regrouping and reassessing. They had never been stopped before. They did not know how to process defeat. But they would be back. Greg knew that. This was just the first battle. The war would last years, maybe decades. The Devourers would adapt. They would return in greater numbers. But Earth would be ready. The Guardian Coalition would grow. More species would join. The younger races would learn to use architect weapons. The galaxy would unite, not because they loved each other, but because they had no choice. And through it all, Earth would stand. The fortress planet, the world that refused to die, the home of humanity, the children of the architects, the species that turned 300 years of weakness into the strength to save the galaxy. Kate stood in the Antarctic Command Center, exhausted but proud. Aegis appeared beside her as a hologram. "You did well," the AI said. "We survived," Kate corrected. "That is all. Survival is everything. The architects did not survive. You did. That makes you stronger than they ever were." Danny Wright returned to Earth as a hero. The species that had expelled him now wanted him back. The coalition was collapsing. Vrax had been forced to resign. The elder races who had planned to flee were being held accountable by their own people. A new council was forming, one that included the younger races, one where humanity had an equal voice. The galaxy was changing. Earth had shown them a better way, not running, not hiding, standing together and fighting for what mattered. Jack Morrison looked out at the stars from his ship. The Devourers were still out there. The war was not over. But for the first time in his life, he felt hope. Earth had roared awake. The galaxy had heard the warning, and in that moment, scattered across 1,000 worlds, people of every species looked up at the stars and knew they were not alone. The children of the architects had come home, and they were not going anywhere. Could humanity survive what was coming? Greg looked at the stars on his display. Somewhere out there, monsters were coming. Ancient, hungry, unstoppable monsters that had killed entire civilizations. But they had never fought humanity before. They had never faced a species that had spent 300 years being underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. They had never encountered people who knew how to turn weakness into strength. The Devourers were about to learn a lesson. Humanity did not just survive. Humanity thrived in impossible situations. It was what they did best. And now, armed with weapons from a dead empire and backed by an alliance of the brave and desperate, humanity was going to show the galaxy what happened when you pushed them too far. The engines were awake. The fortress was armed. The warning had been given. Let the monsters come. Earth would be waiting. Danny nodded slowly. It was real. Earth will defend this galaxy. Anyone who wants to help is welcome. Anyone who wants to run can leave. But we are done being the galaxy's punching bag. Greg looked up at the sky. It was daytime, but he knew the stars were still there. Billions of them. And somewhere in that vast darkness, the Devourers were coming. "We need allies," Greg said. "Then we will find them. Not all the elder races agree with Vrax. Some of them remember what the architects sacrificed. Some of them still have honor. And the ones who do not?" Danny's expression hardened. "Then they will learn what happens when you abandon humanity. We are not the weak species they remember. Not anymore. The engines have roared awake, and the galaxy is about to learn what that means." Still no answer. Danny looked around the chamber. Some of the aliens looked ashamed. Others looked defiant. All of them looked afraid. "Earth will not run," Danny said. "We will fight. The structures are awake. The engines are roaring. We remember what we were built to do. The only question now is whether you will stand with us or against us." He turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the council erupted into arguments again. But Danny did not care anymore. Earth was done asking for permission. Humanity was going to do what it did best. Survive. Fight. And remind the galaxy that being underestimated was humanity's greatest advantage. The silent engines had roared awake. The warning had been sent. Now came the hard part. Preparing for a war that had been waiting 1,000,000 years to finish. As every treaty Earth has signed with the coalition, Danny kept his voice calm. "We have activated nothing that was not already ours. If there are systems on Earth, they belong to humanity." "Nothing on Earth belongs to humanity," Vrax roared. "Your species evolved there, yes, but you did not build these weapons. They were placed there long before humans existed." Danny felt a chill run down his spine. "Then who built them?" Vrax went very still. The entire council chamber was silent. Finally, the Zentari counselor spoke. "We do not know." but we made sure your species would never be able to activate them. We were wrong." Danny stood up straight. For the first time in his life, he saw fear in the eyes of the elder races. They were terrified, not of war, not of invasion. They were afraid of Earth. "Whatever we found," Danny said quietly, "it is too late to stop now."